Welcome. In today's explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the magic that powers pretty much every modern web app you use and find out just how they remember your every single click. So let's just start with a really fundamental question. Think about any website. You click a like button, you add something to your shopping cart, whatever. How does that website actually remember that you did that? What's the secret sauce that stops it from just forgetting your action the second after you do it? Well, to answer that, we first need to understand a problem that every developer runs into. See, by default, the little building blocks of a user interface are, believe it or not, completely forgetful. Let's see exactly what that means. So, on the left, you can see what happens when a component tries to just use a normal variable to keep track of something, like a click count. The moment it has to update, poof, that information just vanishes. It has absolutely no memory. But on the right, that's our goal. When the component updates, it needs some kind of special treasure chest to carry that information along with it so it doesn't get left behind. And here's the technical reason why this happens. Those local variables, they only exist for a single render. So when React needs to update what's on the screen, it basically runs that component's code again from the top. The old variable just gets wiped out, effectively resetting it every single time. Okay, so how do we give our components that treasure chest, that special memory they so desperately need? Well, luckily for us, React provides a really powerful and elegant solution. It's called state. The answer to our problem is this core concept called state. The best way to think of it is like a special memory box that React personally hands to every single component you create. It's a safe place to store information, like a click count or whatever a user typed in that needs to survive from one render to the next. And to use this memory, we get this special tool from React called a hook. Hooks are basically functions that let us hook into React's features, and for state, we use the one called useState. It's a super simple three-step process. First, you import it. Second, you declare your state variable and a special function that's used to update it. And third, you just call that update function whenever something happens, like a user clicks a button. That's it. All right, so we've got the pieces, but how do they all connect? How does a physical click on your mouse actually turn into a visual change on your screen? Let's trace that entire journey, something we often call the render loop. It's this beautiful, simple, but incredibly powerful loop. First, there's a trigger from you, the user, like a click. This tells React it needs to re-render the component, but this time with new data. And finally, React commits that change to the screen for you to see. Trigger, render, commit. That is the absolute core of interactivity in React. But here's where things get really interesting. There's a fascinating and crucial detail about how state behaves during that render step. And let me tell you, understanding this one rule is the key to avoiding some of the most common bugs in React. Here it is, the golden rule. A state variable's value is fixed within any particular render. It's like taking a photograph. React captures the state at the very beginning of the render, and for the entire time it's running its logic for that update, it will only ever see the values from that one specific snapshot. To really see this in action, let's do a quick thought experiment. Imagine we have a number in our state, and it starts at 0. We click a button that's supposed to add 5 to it, but it also sets a 3-second timer to show an alert with that number. The question is, what does the alert say? Now, you'd probably expect it to show 5, right? But the answer, surprisingly, is 0. So why? It's because the code inside our click handler doesn't see into the future. It captures the value of the state at the exact moment it was called. In that render snapshot, the number was 0, and that's the value it holds onto for the full 3 seconds until the alert pops up. So why does all this matter? Why is a snapshot system so important? Well, this predictable system of stateful memory blocks is precisely what lets us build these incredibly complex applications from simple, totally reliable little pieces. Because each component's state, its memory, is completely separate and isolated, we can build these huge, complex interfaces out of simple, reusable pieces, and they will never get confused. If you put 2 counter components on a page, they'll each have their own count, their own independent memory. But it's not just about isolated memory. To make a real application, things have to be connected. So parent components can pass information down to their children. This one-way data flow, something we call props, lets a parent control how its children look or behave, creating a dynamic and interconnected user interface. So when you get right down to it, by giving these simple components a reliable way to remember things, React provides the fundamental building blocks for pretty much every interactive web app you use today.
All that complexity you see online is just built from these simple, stateful blocks, all pieced together. The only question left is, what will you build with them?